All right, I think it's time for another interview. Guys,
Yes.
do you know about any nightmares in the dream realm, or at least escaping this realm at all?
Well, I did hear rumors that the nightmares were opening portals to somewhere, but
And they have gotten more daring lately.
All right, hang on. I'm gonna pull in this guy before he gets hurt.
Hello there.
Hello. I'm not where I was.
yes, it seems that nightmares were trying to torment you. My friend Ashura here pulled you back away from them.
Interesting. I lived out the same dreams every night. I didn't realize others would consider them nightmares. But I do thank you for the welcome break. It's nice to step away.
Of course, and nightmares, there's few forms of them, but our form can be a bit more treacherous than most. Didn't want you to get too hurt. Your friend John Albino's, correct?
You know, John? That's interesting.
Yes, we talked to John recently, actually. I may have pulled them in from the spiritual resting place, so to speak, because they seemed interesting, and we got to know them a bit. They talked about you and other friends. They seemed very proud of you all.
That's not surprising coming from John. He's very patient with us and our antics.
But would you be interested in sharing some of your stories? And in return, we can shield you from your nightmare. At least for tonight.
Yeah, I can tell you what little interesting facts there are about me, I suppose.
First off, did we ever get your name?
Dr. Arthur Morgan, but most people call me Arthur. Some call me Morgan. No one calls me Doctor.
Nice to meet you, Dr. Arthur Morgan. I am Dragon Ephraim.
Ephraim.
I am the Cephalotus Fae, known as Rue.
Rue. Alright, nice to meet you both.
And my name is Ashura. I'm the one that dragged you in.
And nice to meet you as well, Ashura.
So, can you tell us a bit about where you're from?
The country as a whole, the continent where I'm at currently, there's been a lot of places I'm from.
Let's go where you're originally from.
Zensi. A land of mechanical strength and human ingenuity, but they fall flat when it comes to other races, human rights, magic, caring about each other. It's not like that everywhere. You can find the further from the capital you go, the better the people are, but overall the government's rotten through and through. Raises the worst fanatics you've ever seen. Thinks they're superior to everyone in every race.
So I guess you don't have dragons in your realm.
There are dragons. Zensi's military hunted them out of extinction in Zensi territory, but you can find some in Destina and Wentigro. Occasionally in Natum, but they usually migrate down to enjoy the lush pastures.
Interesting. Dragons have been hunted out.
Unfortunately, they called it their crowning moment when they proved that humanity could do anything better than anyone else.
I feel like I might have to pay them a visit and prove them wrong, but that's another story for another time.
I'm hoping that won't be necessary. Upcoming events may lead to a change of government.
Oh. Can you tell us what events?
Well, I gotta be quiet about it for the most part. It's still classified. But the war that Zensi has raged upon our three countries of Integro, Natum, and Destina is coming to an end with an all-out assault on the capital and hopefully every purpose of government. I'm hoping that whoever is placed in charge of Zensi is the complete opposite of what's been. I'm actually hoping they go into a democratic system away from hierarchy, but so far we've only seen that in Latigro, and I don't know how the propaganda would allow savages, quote unquote, to have a effect on our government.
Can I ask, you have a strange looking mask with you.
Oh,
Is that to disguise yourself?
Yes, I do have my old uniform as well. I can put it on and hide my face and blend in with Zinthi rings easy enough. But it's also just handy to have on me in case Vraska unleashes their gas.
Is it as bad as Ephraim's?
Their gas wiped out an entire city in mere moments.
Oof.
So, about as bad, yes.
Ha. Ha.
Well, I don't think Ephraim's gas has wiped anybody out, though it has made some of the kobolds pass out, so...
Now you sound like Bolero.
Who is Bolero?
My best friend. When I first was brought in, he sucked beside me, even though I was from Zinzi. Offered me his room to share with him. Gave me his bed because he still can't tell if he's lying or not. Prefers to sleep in a nest since he's an Aarakocra, but I digress. He offered me a bed, gave me clothing, money, and a good conversation or two.
Conversations are always, well, they're always good to have.
I agree. I enjoy sitting down just relaxing instead of constant fighting that we've seen recently.
How come Zenzi's going to war?
They believe that the human race is superior to all races. Think that they can govern the world better than elves or dwarves or anybody else.
And they'd rather prove this by force than simple talking.
Yes.
That seems counterproductive.
You're telling me. Zenzi's reputation has not been good in a long time, but this has just put them as far down as ever. Most countries that you walk into and tell them you're from Zinzi, whether you're fleeing the country or there as a military informant or a politician, will get you shunned, kicked out of stores, sometimes even attacked.
And you left this country?
I did.
How do you go about doing so?
I was approached by my now friends during a battle, the Siege of Matopi. I was tending to John's partner. I'm not sure their actual status now. I never really did delve into that. That whole entire situation was a mess, but he approached me when I was taking care of her, and I saved his son from getting hurt, and they offered me a chance to join them to leave Zinzi, and I took it.
So you took part in this war?
Unfortunately, I was drafted.
Okay.
I was far, far away from Patal, and apparently the talk of a doctor who was good at his job spread, and they took me in to save combatants.
So you never actually fought yourself?
No, of course not. I think war is pointless and needless, and I'm also a pacifist.
They're not pointless. If their goal is to conquer nations, then some wars achieve that, right?
I think the loss of life isn't worth it. There are outliers to every rule, but invading another country because you believe yours is superior is not something that I could ever justify.
Mm.
Fighting back to defend your home is an unfortunate part of it, but I just wish it wasn't a thing that had to be done because some people decided that because your ears are pointed, or you're shorter than 5 foot, or your skin color is different, that they decide that you're less than a human. And apparently that's the status quo now, so
I'm inclined to agree with you on the war and is not a good thing, that it's somewhat pointless and counterproductive. It is unfortunate that you got drafted, but but unrelated to that, are you in a relationship currently?
I am.
Okay, could you tell me a bit more about that? I've always had interest in other people's relationships because I have not been able to find out how people get those to work.
Alright, this one's going to be a story. But after I betrayed Zinzi, I became a traitor to my nation. I was evacuated out of Matopi with my new friends. We went across the kingdom to where Destino was setting up a new capital the king and what citizens had made it out of Matopi had been evacuated there. The king's aide, her name's Gisela, she's actually a Zenzi operative, she was being influenced by someone pulling strings on her mental status. But she framed me for murder, assassination on the king. My party friends stepped in and saved me from public execution. We took her prisoner, took her back to the guild hall where our guild leader wanted to flat out execute her. I wanted her to go back and have a fair trial in Destina. After arguing for a while, Giselle and I spoke, and I agreed to help her break out to prove her innocence. She took me as a quote-unquote prisoner, and while we were gone, I actually enjoyed her company, so when she came back and proved her innocence, it developed from there.
Whoa.
How did you prove her innocence?
I didn't, but she did. She went back to Zinzi, brought back documents and other small pieces that proved what the guild leader had suspected all along was true, and then brought back a very powerful magic artifact that she handed into the guild. The guild leader and her talked for a little bit, and I don't know what happened, but apparently now they're best friends.
Well, that's a very interesting way for a relationship to develop, but it's a good thing that she was able to clear her name.
Agreed. She's turned out to be a very good ally to the guild and a very nice person. She has a attitude about her that others find distasteful, but I find it amusing.
What sort of attitude is that?
She's very blunt. She doesn't hold back. If she doesn't like you, she'll tell you straight to your face, I don't like you. I just find it amusing that someone can be so blunt with people and feel no remorse.
Yeah, I like that. It sounds much better to be clear about your intentions than speaking in metaphors and stuff like that.
I agree.
And what about back home? Back in Zetsi, do you have anyone there?
I have an uncle. He took me in after my parents passed away. He got me into a prestigious school, helped me through the tough part of my life, and helped me get into my hometown where I was born. I say home, like I spent a lot of my life there, but I was born there, and I got to work trying to make sure what happened to my parents didn't happen to anyone else.
Yeah, how did your parents pass away?
My father worked in a mine. He spent most of his life there. My mother, a nurse, was there. Her medical knowledge and skills were all that was ever talked about in that town. They hit it off after he got hurt a couple times and then purposely started getting hurt to go see her more. And they just spent several years there, and when I was conceived, they moved out, and father got sick with black lung. It's some disease that destroys your lung tissues and makes them unrepairable without magic, which is outlawed, unfortunately, in Zinzi. So he passed away, and my mother, who didn't spend as much time in the mines, passed away shortly after.
And is that what led you to become a doctor?
Yes, I wanted to make sure that never happened. I never wanted a child to go through not being able to see their parents, or a parent being told that their child is gone.
And have you managed to stop people from getting sick?
Yes and no. I may have cheated the system a bit. After my mother died, I went upstairs to start packing, and I found an amulet and a prayer book to Fatan. Upon reciting it, I learned that I could do some magic. I wouldn't be able to practice it for a long time, however, but I was able to do simple stuff in the book like cure wounds and light healing. So I could cure people that seemed uncurable, and that's how word got about that a doctor was able to do what others couldn't.
Yeah, it's quite handy to be able to use magic. I've heard that there are some realms where people can't use magic at all.
Well, I feel for them. Magic has been a great asset for me. I have a great teacher who's been teaching me all about cleric spells and how to properly channel them.
You said magic was not permitted in Zetsi, right?
It is outlawed.
So can I ask, how did you come across those books if they're outlawed?
Well, my mother had them hidden away in a chest. Religious doctrine isn't outlawed, it's kind of just frowned upon, I guess. You can practice any religion, but it's still seen as something that humans are subservient to gods. But she kept them in her amulet, which is now mine. I actually wear it all the time. And it lets me channel my magic through it, I guess.
So your mother must have had some magical ability. Do you know if your father did?
I know from what I've read and talked a bit about my uncle that she did. She kept it under wraps. She never got too advanced into it like I did. As far as I know about my father, I was never able to find his side of the family. So I don't know, unfortunate. But it happens.
So, what is the current goal of your guild?
Currently, we are prioritizing ending this war of Zinsi, and then we're hunting down Vraska to remove them from the earth as my guild leader. So, aptly put it.
So, who is Raska?
Vraska is a homicidal maniac. They are hell-bent on finding a poison that can kill a god.
Oh.
They unleash these deadly poisons into, honestly, most of Destina right now, killing armies, citizens. It doesn't matter. I feel no remorse. They honestly are more a monster than they are anything.
A poison that could kill a god. That sounds really deadly.
Yes, and I don't know how they're going about it, and I'm kind of afraid to delve into trying to find out.
I mean, there are multiple ways to kill a god.
Yes, but no one in our world's ever tried.
Hmm.
That I know of.
Simply challenge them to a game of Dragon Chess. They'll basically pass out before they admit defeat.
I'll keep that in mind. I first have to learn the rules of Dragon Chess, I suppose.
Just had a person here. Maybe I can bring them and you back in for a game sometime.
That sounds fun.
Believe me, it's more boring to play dragon chess than to actually play with the pieces.
I still want that dragon piece back.
No, you can't have it. It's mine.
Anyway, my apologies. We tend to go on a bit of ramble.
They're quite fun.
So the party found you saving John's ex-partner,
Hmm.
and you joined their party and you joined their guild, the Regulars, correct?
I did.
And Zensi is currently going to war. I'm assuming the king is the one that sent the order, or was there something that triggered this?
The king sent the order. Rumor has it that the secret prince that's pulling the strings is manipulating his father into starting the war, but we haven't quite proved that theory.
Makes you think that?
The guild leader's run into him before and has mentioned that he has an effect to alter people's minds. The king, before the war broke out, didn't like other nations and didn't like the way land disputes were handled, but hadn't been preparing for war or talked about it. And then suddenly we were at war with Montegro with a full-scale invasion. And after learning what I did about this secret prince and spitballing with my friends, we've come to the theory that the prince has manipulated or dominated his mind into this war.
And with it being outlawed, you go against the laws back just to, I'm assuming, get to the point where he can rule the kingdom himself?
Yes. He was presumed to have died in when he was young. He had a weird illness that I don't know anything about. But his in-game goal is to take over Zensi, Montegro, Nada Medestina to, I guess, expand his army and look out to the rest of the world.
Could you tell us a bit about the journeys that you've been on with your party ever since the war?
Certainly. There hasn't been anything to... Oh no, there was this one time. We actually had a adventure a while back that we went to go investigate a town that's a holy city that worships the god Paralis. They had been afflicted by the undead, and upon getting there, we saw the remains of a town all but been destroyed and a church that was barricaded. We went to go help, and while fighting and trying to solve this mystery of the cult that was raising a demon, I believe was their end goal, we found out that one of my friend's sisters was killed and was brought back to hunt down his bloodline. They were holy paladins of the city, so it made sense for them to be targets. But in our fights, we got cursed. Each one of us suffered a different one. But the most notable one is that Bolero, my friend, kept saying that we were in some type of game and we were waiting on someone to make a move for him. So occasionally he would just space out and not say anything. And said that there was a scene change, and it was quite amusing. He still sometimes jokes around about it today.
Was it like everyone was part of a big game of dragon chess?
He called the game Dungeons and Dragons. I don't know. It's really far-fetched.
Yeah, that's pretty much us.
Yeah, not wrong, not wrong.
It was amazing. We would ask him a question, and he would look to the sky and say, "Hold on, I am waiting for my player to tell me the answer." And then he would look back at us and say the answer. It was a funny curse. Honestly, we were quite sad to see it go. He was also quite sad because it made for amusing times, but overall it's been better since the curse was removed.
That is an interesting curse. You know, I had 2 questions I was going to ask, and I can't remember either of them.
Happens to the best.
Yes, I'm starting to think old age is getting to me.
Happens to Rue too.
Are you saying I'm not one of the best of us here? Well, I am hurt, Ephraim.
Staying out of this one.
But I remembered one of them. I've noticed you have a few magic items on you. Besides having some enchanted armor and a shield, could you tell me about the other couple of items you have?
Oh, sure. I have my amulet here. It's the one belonged to my mother. It helps me channel my divinity, but my friend, Puck, who has examined it, he told me that it can extend the range of my divinity, which has come in handy quite a lot, actually. And then I have a bracelet that I bought in the capital of Needham, which is Highland. It's just something to help bolster my health. I'm not sure how to describe it, actually, but it just made me feel better overall. Like I just have more health.
Healthier.
I suppose, yes. That's about it for all I have. Really, most of my money went into getting better armor and shields because my friends were worried that everybody kept trying to attack me.
Oh,
So you get attacked often?
Normally by Zinzi officers that recognize me. Outside of that, if I do get attacked, it's because I run into danger trying to save one of them or someone else that is being hurt.
it is noble to go and run in to help someone. Man, old age really is getting to me. I had another question I wanted to ask, and it's at the tip of my tongue. But, well, 5,000 years will do that to you.
Rue, can you open your mouth?
Ah.
No, I don't see a question there.
God damn it, Ephraim. It's a figure of speech, and you should know this.
I'm going to have to get you another book.
He doesn't read the books.
We'll get you an audiobook.
What is an audiobook?
We'll have Jeremy read it out to him.
Ah,
We'll just have him follow him along everywhere he goes, reading it out.
but Jeremy is supposed to be my personal attendant and helper with things such as getting cookies for the guests. Speaking of, Jeremy went to get some cookies a while ago and hasn't returned.
Oh, I made a big trap of all the books that you've given me. So he might be caught in the book trap.
Is that the snapping I heard earlier?
Could be.
But, sorry. Once again, we tend to go off and on. Can you tell us one of your favorite moments in the journeys that you've had?
Favorite moments. I do have one that stands out as a moment. It's not necessarily a good moment, but I'm glad that I chose the way I did. Not too long ago, Vraska came to our guild and proposed a temporary alliance to help us race to meet the prince on requiring a magic item, one that Vraska described as a way to end life. I'm not quite sure magic, it still is not my specialty, so. But while there, one of the prince's spies had apparently infiltrated our guild hall and framed my friend Bolero, and I stood by his side and defended him, even though he was breaking the law and brewing poisons. They were more simple poisons, just stuff to knock people out. But I stood by his side, even though most of the party had turned against him because of the run-in of previous poisons. And when it all came to light that he was being framed, it just made me feel good that I knew my friend, and I wouldn't ever doubt him on something so serious like this.
Yeah, it's always good to know your friends.
What about one of your luckiest and unluckiest times?
One of my luckiest and unluckiest of times. I think the luckiest time was when I bailed Bolero out of a situation from getting arrested. He tried to steal a magic item that turned out to be just a display piece, but I convinced them that we were testing security of the local guards and everything would be returned by the city. The shop owner believed us, and once we got out of the area, I told Bolero that I'm not covering for him again. He still tried to steal things. But one of my worst times is I was so sleep deprived after staying up near 30 plus hours. I was brought before Gisela and the other top staff of the now assassinated Destina King, and she had killed the king for Zinzi and had framed me, being I was the only Zinzi soldier at the time known. I just couldn't quite come up and explain what I was doing all night. I was tired. I told him that I was down near where the tents were, helping out where I could, and about all I could actually manage and muster. Luckily, my friends had stepped up and saved me from execution.
So, what are your plans for after the war ends?
That depends on how the situation with the war ends.
Considering like the best possible outcome.
Best possibly would be almost no casualties. Not much to really do in terms of helping people, just because no one got hurt. So tend to the minor that are wounded and hopefully retire away from a situation where I am adventuring and I can more so use my skills and abilities to help those in need. I guess traveling doctor, or go around to areas that are afflicted by disease and other areas of war and help the wounded.
A good dream to follow.
Thank you.
Well, it's been lovely having you, and I'm looking forward to our game of Dragon Chess.
Well, thank you. If you guys ever want anyone to come by again, feel free to pull me. I'm always down to have a conversation or two.
And we would love to hear another story. But until then, have a good awakening. Words.